and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. If you'd like to support our show, please use our Amazon affiliate link below. Today, another installment of decorating items with pressed flowers and foliage from the indoor garden. And today we are going to work on a card, so you can embellish cards with pressed flowers and foliage. This isn't a pressed flower here, this is actually an image, but I thought it would be really pretty to add some, in the interior, to add some pressed flowers. And then you can also do things like make bookmarks. So I started this bookmark, which says good times with a good book, and I'm going to go ahead and decorate here and here with pressed flowers as well. Then put this little pretty bow at the top. So obviously that's the top of where you would put that's the top part there. So anyway, that's what we're gonna do here. So when you're, as I mentioned in other videos and in general, what you want to do, so things like whatever you're doing, so things like this stationery, you want to play around a little bit with the design before you start gluing. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to lay this out, and then this, and what I have to work with here are some pressed flowers from my indoor garden here. So we've got these. This is the pink polka dot plant, and there's several leaves of that. This is an African violet. It was a pink that turned a darker kind of dark pink, and these were variegated. These are variegated African violets as well. I have a few in here too that can choose from as well in here. So this was off of an African violet. It's a petal, and this is the polka dot plant, but it's the green and white one. And then we have another, this one. This is an African violet. It was purple, but it faded. I'm not showing you too good here. Turning it around here, it faded to a yellowy color, which is kind of interesting. And here's another African violet. So what I'm going to do is start playing around here, which was something you can do, is you can pour, so that you have to be very careful because these are so delicate. So you can pour them actually onto whatever you're working on, and this is a wooden dowel that I'll use wooden dowels sometimes, make sure they're dry and everything and don't have any sharp points on them. But I will also use these to push the flowers around a little bit. You can use tweezers as well. I have tweezers here as well. So I'm going to put on, this is the moth orchid flower, and then I've got more of these African violets. I think though these two African violets here, I'm going to want, and I've got three actually of the same one. This one is it is a really pretty flower that it's a variegated purple with a little bit of yellow in it, but it's as you see, and I show in the other videos too, it's always so interesting how they actually end up drawing. So what we're going to do here is I think I'm going to see how, because I'm thinking with the purple, I was thinking with the purple when I planned this, that it was going to be a good idea to go ahead, get this, and use this purple African violet. And it's a real pretty one with, actually I think I still have one of these flowers on the plant itself. So I'm probably, in a minute, I'm going to get these situated. In a minute, I'm going to go get it. Stop camera, go get it so you can see, because it's always so interesting to see where did this come from, right? Okay, so you see if you push things around a little bit, it actually makes it not too hard to do. And you can see how you like it. Do I like the bigger one up there? And these two are the similar color. This one's a little bit more of a yellowy color going on there. Or another option is always try, when you're doing this, to turn them over. Now you see when I turn it over, this is the more purpley side. So that other side was most likely the underside of the flower. So here we go. How's that? I think that looks really pretty. the way I've got it there. So I'm going to go ahead and decide that this is it for this one. And right now I'm going to go ahead and stop for a second here and go get that plant so you can see what the original flower was too. Okay, so I am back here. Just wanted to show you this where these came from. So it's this flower here, which is actually a kind of a bluey purple here. You can see it up close there. See, it's a very bluey purple. It's got that the border there. So it's just always really fascinating to me how they end up drawing, and a lot of times it's not what you would suspect would happen. So there you go with that. I wanted to show you that here so you can get a little look there. Okay, put that out of the way. All right, so we can get back to work here. Okay, so now we have, here we go. I think I like this design. I like the fact that it's all the same flower. I don't think that I would. You can always play around a little bit, but I don't think I would want to stick a yellow in there. It doesn't really look like it fits there, so I'm going to go ahead and not do that. You can also tell, it's very easy to tell which side is which too when you look at them in terms of, this one I'll show you up close here. So this one, you can see right there, that right there on the bottom there, that is actually the end of the stem. So with the African violet, you want to cut it off real close, but you can't cut off the whole stem, because if you do, then the petals fall off. So you can see that's the stem. So if I go ahead and turn it over, that's the other side. And you see, you don't see that stem. So, and you do see, which is really cool, in here you see all the striations there. So it's actually a really pretty flower there when you look at it, and knowing that it came from it looked different originally. You can do the, as mentioned, you can do the moth orchids and other orchids. They're more fleshy, so there's a little bit more stuff that went on here in terms of when it was drawing. It got a little funky there, but it still has a very cool look to it. Okay, so now I need to decide what I'm going to do inside of this card. So if you're not sure, you might want to decide on everything first. I'm going to go ahead, however, before I finish the card, and I'm just going to finish this because I just really like this, the way it is, this bookmark. Okay, so get that out of the way. So as I showed in other videos as well, so what you want to do here, this is right here, it is actually Elmer's glue, and this is, I used 1 teaspoon of glue to 1/8 of a teaspoon of water to water it down a little bit so it's not so goopy when you're trying to work with it. Once I'm done, I will be using a polyurethane product, water-based polyurethane product, to seal it, to seal the flowers on. You want to do 2 to 3 coats to make sure they're nice and sealed, nice and protected. That will protect the flowers from getting bumped off, and it will also help somewhat with the light, because light will in time fade the flowers. Okay, so here we are now. You see this, and I'm going to turn them over because I need to get the backs of them. Oops, now I'm losing them. Okay, so better thing, instead of trying to do that, which was not working too well, what I'm going to do here is, you'll see here, you want to brush it on fairly well. You want to get it covered, good coverage on there, but you don't want to have too much. So you don't want big glumpy stuff going on either. So you want to spread it around a little bit. That's why putting the water in it helps. I wouldn't put too much water though, because you do want it to have a good drying ability, but a little bit of water won't hurt it. and actually makes it spread easier. So get good coverage on there, like I said. And then soon after you do this part, you want to get it onto the item itself. Try not to get sticky mess going on here. So here I am right here, putting it on the top part, and I believe I had it. The good news is too that so if you need to, you may need to use something to kind of pull it out. I had a little, it folded a little. So unfolding with the dowel here as opposed to my finger, which a lot of times just makes things worse. So you can see here already it's really gotten it nice and stuck. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit because I'm zoomed in so you could see that one. Okay, so here you go with that. That's really pretty. We could go with something else under here, but I did decide on all purple, but it doesn't hurt to make sure again. So here I have I could go with one moth orchid, but I'm not that excited about that. If I wanted to go with a different sort of a color theme, I could. Here, right here is an arrowhead plant. So that gives a different look. I'm not really liking it too much, but it does. I could also go with pink polka dot plant as well. That would pick up some of the color. And then here we have that other African violet, but not exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and finish with what I had planned with the 3 same African violet flowers. So choosing the side that I want, which was this one as opposed to this one, because it's got more color on that side. And once again, painting it, the back with the glue here. Okay. Now we are going to apply it. I think that looks good. Sometimes if it's not quite what you were thinking, you can move it around as I mentioned, but sometimes since it's so delicate, it's a little closer to those words than I would have liked, but I'm going to leave it because I have tried that. These are paper thin. So remember, they may be thicker before you dry them, but all the water is what's making them thicker. So they're paper thin, like membranes basically. And so you start messing around with them, and I have done that before, and mushing it around as I just kind of ruined the flower. So I'm going to leave this, and I still think it looks okay. It's not like I got on top of a word or anything. Okay. So last one here. And use some tweezers. Okay, going to choose which side. This side. So turning it over and going to glue it up. Also make sure your hands are really clean when you do this. If your hands do get gluey, too gluey, then go wash them off, dry them really good. Since you went to all the trouble of drying the flowers, you want to keep them dry as much as possible. Okay, so now I am turning this over, and this is my last one, so I want to make sure I do this exactly where I want it. So, as mentioned, just don't put it down till you are ready. Okay, I think this is it. So, you can also use popsicle sticks to flatten things against the surface as well. The wood works well because it doesn't tend to adhere to things as much as things like plastic would and your finger. Okay, so there we go. We've got a really, really cute homemade, homegrown and homemade bookmark here. And you could put somebody's name on there if you were giving it to them, especially. I probably will give this one to my daughter because she loves flowers and she loves purple and she does like to read, so she'll enjoy this as well. I could always add her name along the way as well. And then, as I mentioned, I will be using the water-based polyurethane on top. 2 or 3 coatings. You don't have to coat the whole thing. You can just coat about a 16th or an 18th of an inch outside of it and the whole inside area. So there is that. Okay, now we're moving on to, so I can give this bookmark, I could theoretically give it with a nice note card, right? So we're going to make a really cool note card here. Now, I am going to see, I've been looking at this green, this is from a parlor palm, and I've just been wondering what this could look like. So I'm thinking, and obviously you want to do it on the side that is not writing, not the not writing side, right? But you can make a border around the writing side. So I think this looks really cool here. And then I was thinking of maybe either these guys here, but I'm not really liking the green and the yellow and that. So I'm thinking more along the lines of perhaps using one of these moth orchids. Now I do have a petal as well. So, you know, you kind of play around and you may not like something and you may have to wait until next time or go and dry some more flowers to see what you get. So this is a possibility here. See that here. And there is green in this to pick up some of the green. So it's an interesting look. Another possibility would be just to do maybe a couple of these, or just do this and then do this other African violet, this yellowy African violet here. Or if you're really not liking that, could also just do, for a more simple look, this, and over here this in the corner. That kind of looks nice. I'm wondering, just haven't found the right thing to put these arrowhead leaves on, I don't think. I think I like this. It's nice and simple. It's not too many colors going on here. I could give this to somebody else as well, maybe someone who likes the more earthy tones. And another thing you can always do is, if you don't have exactly what you want this time, then you can go ahead and wait. You can go ahead and dry some more flowers and maybe add to it, so it can be a work in progress. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going ahead and I'm going to secure these on here. One more thing I'm thinking possibly checking on is this other African violet, the one that was a pink, original pink, but it's still just too dark, I think. So I'm not gonna I don't really like that. And of course, this is all personal preference and who you're giving it to and that sort of thing as well. Okay. So going ahead and just securing these, and also too, we don't want a ton of, we really don't want a ton of foliage and flowers on a card, because you want to have a place to write something too. So, all right, so here we go with this. Applying it as usual. Once you get used to working with this too, you get a little faster at it. You can also roll. Sometimes rolling the brush helps. You do want a brush with fine hairs on it, and something that's not a lot of hairs on it, and also you can kind of point and do some of the smaller, more detailed work more easily with that. So see, already this is sticking to my finger. So it's going to be a little bit of a tricky thing here, not breaking it. Okay, I got it off. But it wanted to stick to my finger. So here we go with that. And I did put it on the right side, fortunately. So that's the writing side. Okay, now we're going to work on there was this little bitty leaf from another project too. It's purple. I'm thinking of something here, seeing how it looks, of adding that to the center of this guy. Actually, it gives us a nice color. However, see how it looks with the green. Or does it look better without that purple? And I save that for something else. I think it looks better without the purple because I don't have, well, that's not necessarily true because there's purple on the cover. So I think that actually brings the whole theme forward. So I am going to, after all, go ahead and grab that little guy. There's two sides to it as well. There's this side that has a little bit of a yellow. There's this side that's very purpley. I'm going to go for the very purpley because of the purple on the front of the card. If there wasn't purple on the front of the card, I might not be putting this on here, but since there is, and here another precision job here, just very carefully. Pretty much where it lands is where it's going to stay. You can move it a tad. It'll move around a little bit, so I got to center it a little bit. So you can see that. Okay, now we are going to adhere the green. A lot of times when you do things like these greens, they will be more kind of turned more one way. So fortunately, the way I want to put it on, it's turned that way, so it's going to adhere better that way. So once again, applying. It's kind of a little bit of a work here because you got to get all the fronds done. The Parlor Palm is pretty easy to dry, so it's a really good one, especially if you want some nice greenery. It's a fairly thin leaf already. It's more fibrous than watery, so it will dry up nicely, as you can see, and it also tends to stay green, which is really nice. So you can get some green in there rather than, you know, trying to get the green that turns brown a lot and all that kind of thing. Okay, so checking here, I've got pretty good coverage on everything. If you miss a little bit of one thing, you can always use the paintbrush, especially a pointy paintbrush like this, to get in underneath a leaf a little bit, just to make sure it has enough. Okay, my hands are pretty goopy. I'm gonna wipe it and let it dry for a second so I don't go sticking. And if the glue can sometimes stick to whatever you're working on and then take off words and stuff. Fortunately, there aren't any words in here or drawings. Okay, now going to carefully place it. Best not to have it in the crease there, so I'm going to, well, guess what? It got caught in the crease a little bit there. So what I'm going to need to do, because it's going to, with the folding, it's going to come up. I'm going to have to cut it. So I'm going to cut off, going to lift and cut just a little bit of that off so that it doesn't pull the rest of it off. And I think it still looks fine. And get the rest of these pushed down. Like I said, popsicle sticks work well too, especially if it's something you're bigger like this that you're trying to flatten, but this skewer will also work. And pushing down a little bit on the middle here. Now see here, it didn't get enough glue here to either. So I'm going to do what I was talking about earlier and just slide underneath there, and remembering to slide so you can see it this time underneath, and then you see it flopped right down there. The ends here as well. Okay. And then running this along it, and they're all down pretty firmly here. Oh, not this one over here. So about one more. You don't want to do too much, so take off the glue if you put too much on. So just sliding it underneath. Yeah, it's okay if you get some glue on the top too. Just keeping in mind, there we go. Oh, and I've got it upside down. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, what happened? That's why. And I'm seeing I don't have enough glue there. So that will happen. Sometimes it'll happen too because it'll just start to dry, depending on how dry your air is as you work. So there we go. And you can, there, I'm getting that down there. Some of them, like the palms, a lot of times you can brush them because even though they're thin, as I mentioned, they're fibrous, so they're not as paper thin as the things like the flowers, so they aren't as breakable. Okay. So here you see here, and as I was mentioning too, if you get some glue on top, that's fine. You just don't want to get a lot of glue on top because it will get bumpy. It's going to dry clear, but it can show as bumpy afterwards, and you're also going to be putting the polyurethane on, which the polyurethane is pretty thin, so it doesn't create a bumpy look. You do want to watch out for air bubbles though. But so keep that in mind too in terms of the glue, and just you want to adhere well, you want to seal well, but you don't want to overdo it either where it gets bumpy and funny looking, because you want it to look as natural as possible. Okay, so here is this really pretty card, and as I mentioned, you could make a card for someone, you could make a bookmark for someone to go together like that. There's lots of really cool things you can do. And that is how it is done. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And please check the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are released.